out to you at a separate time. So again, not a political night. This is a night to answer your questions and get people help. That's what I'm focused on right now. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sarah McCrae, who is a state individual assistance officer for the Michigan State Police. Sarah, thank you for being here, and I'll let you start. Thanks.
Thank you, Congresswoman Dingell. Speaking on behalf of the Michigan State Police Emergency Management and Homeland Security Division, let me personally assure you that we will continue to partner closely with the local governments in Southeast Michigan and voluntary organizations in coordination with our federal partners, FEMA and the U.S. Small Business Administration, who are here tonight. We are committed to helping families, neighborhoods, and communities in Southeast Michigan recover from this devastating flooding disaster. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that next is Tad Servant who heads Homeland Security and Management for Wayne County. Tad.
Thank you, Congressman Dingell, and thank you for the invitation. And I know your passion, and I appreciate your support for your constituents. Let me just say that our office got started before the first raindrop. We sent out warnings to all of the communities, flash flood warnings, weather reports, so that they were aware of the rain that was coming. That was on Friday, June 25th. On June 26th, our office actually started our response at about 4 a.m. as we began to get damage assessments through the night and coordinate that information. At 10 a.m. on June 26th, I participated on a state call with the governor's office to brief them about the damage in Wayne County and specifically in the Dearborn area. At 2 p.m. that day, we held a emergency managers meeting with all of the emergency managers in the county, and we were advised by 2:36 p.m. that the state of Michigan had declared an emergency. That triggered many things in which our office had to deliver. The first being that of damage assessments. Our office handled the damage assessments for the county and sent that along to the state. We were advised, as you stated, a very fast response by FEMA. We were advised that FEMA, the state and SBA would conduct simultaneous damage assessments July 8th through the 10th. And that's significant, Congresswoman, because that, again, assisted in getting the resources to the citizens as fast. Our office also participated in public assistance damage, as well as provided assistance to the communities by setting up a 211 call line for residents in Wayne County if they were having assistance or needing assistance of getting their basements cleaned out. We also assisted in debris management through the state of Michigan, as well as disseminated 7,900 clean out kits in about 48 hours to jurisdictions so that those kits can be sent out to their locals in their respective jurisdictions. We met last Sunday with FEMA team leads regarding disaster resource centers, and I'm sure you'll hear more about that with the FEMA representatives. But we took FEMA around to these communities, to these centers, so they can be inspected. And I'm sure you'll have more information, or FEMA will have more information for that. But we've had boots on the ground since Saturday of the rain, June 26th. We did escort the Lieutenant Governor in and around the Dearborn Heights area so that he could see the damaging effects of the community. And we are embedded with the state and assisting FEMA with any resources they may need with messages out to the public. Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you, Tad. And I want to, before I introduce our next two speakers, I also want to say, well, I want to do two things while you're here, Tad. I know that the county is very much focused on what some of the causes are now, like I was talking about Ecorse Creek, et cetera. We know we need some bigger fixes there, but Greenfield has been flooding every time it rains, and the county is working and will be replacing the pump over there. So the county's really focused on doing what they can do with their resources. We need more, but I want to thank you for that. And we all talked, both the county and then Chief Haddad, who I'm about to introduce, and Chief Joe Murray, a fire chief, about doing this in person. And we made it, all of us know that people want that human connection and wanted it. Had a very big debate, but I'm going to use this for a public service opportunity too. We did not do this because COVID's on the rise, and Delta is a very real danger, threat. We felt we could reach more people virtually, but I wanted to say to everybody, we need to be really aware still of COVID. And we determined this was safer and a way to reach more people. And we all discussed using the Ford Performing Arts Center, but public health experts do it virtually. So I want you to know every decision right now is got a lot of input. And that's why we're not together, because we want people to be safe. But this is going to be, as was said before, is Osama's making sure the Arab American News do it. The city is doing it. The WhatsApps. We're using every social media and media opportunity to replay this for people. So having said that, because Chief Haddad triggered me on that, because we've talked so much and talked about this, let me turn this over to our Chief of Police in Dearborn, who has been working nonstop, and I probably talk to you 10 times a day, Chief Haddad.
Yeah, good evening, Congresswoman. I want to thank everyone on this panel for the continued effort since day one when the rain started. And Tad's absolutely right. We hit the street on midnight after the 25th, and we haven't left since then. And I think what's really essential is that our viewers recognize that they have a very unified team working for them to try to mitigate and recover from this flood. Mayor O'Reilly signed an emergency declaration before 11 a.m. Saturday morning after the flood, and our council by 11:20 had got together and appropriated emergency funding. So the entire city government has been front and center from day one, as has our federal partners, particularly our Congresswoman and our governor. I heard from the governor on Saturday, and she wanted a dashboard analysis of what I thought the city looked like. So going forward, we're going to work with FEMA to make sure that we bring our constituents the right information so that we can get all the claims settled as quickly as possible. And so I look forward to the process. I know Scott Burgess, he's like us, he doesn't sleep, he calls day and night. Scott, your team has been wonderful from day one, and I really appreciate your candor and your guidance in this. So we're prepared to be a conduit to the community. We can assist with translation when needed. And most importantly, we want to be service providers for our citizens who have really suffered immensely behind this last storm. So with that, I conclude my remarks. Thank you, Congresswoman, again.
No, thank you, Chief. I really do appreciate all that you've been doing. Now, Dearborn Deputy Fire Chief Stephen Densmore, who also has been working nonstop since this all happened. And he is actually the emergency manager for the city of Dearborn. He and Joe Murray have been nonstop in all of this as well. Stephen?
Thank you, Congresswoman, for having this this evening. Yes, just like you had mentioned, we stand ready. The fire department, on behalf of myself and Chief Murray, are here to assist in any way we can with the fire department assets, and just be reassured and for the residents that we are here for you 24/7. And thank you for your comments.
Thank you. I'm now going to turn this over to the FEMA and the SBA teams present, who will answer a lot of the nitty-gritty questions that you have. And I really want people to ask questions. I need you to understand they're working hard. As I keep saying, they're not an insurance plan. They're a tool in the toolbox. They know other people. And I think I'll make some comments after the team talks about what's going to be happening, because we need to make sure that people understand what you need to be doing when I'm going to let Scott go, then I'll come in behind. So Scott Burgess, who is the head of the FEMA federal coordinating team on the ground, he hasn't slept since he's gotten here. I have to admit that I've called him at late hours in early hours. He always answers. He's always there. He understands people's anger, fear, passion. He never gets rattled. He just keeps going. So Scott, thank you for being here in the state and helping all of us. And I'm turning this over to you and the SBA teams.
Well, thank you, Representative Dingell, for the opportunity to share FEMA information with your constituents. Good evening, everyone. I'm glad to be with you today. As I said, my name is Scott Burgess, FEMA's Federal Coordinating Officer for the Michigan Disaster Recovery. I'm joined by members of our staff and our partners at the U.S. Small Business Administration to share information about federal recovery resources now made available to individuals in Southeast Michigan who are affected by these severe storms and floods late last month. Federal assistance will be available to you, but you must register with FEMA first. My team will share with you all the options to do just that and what you can expect after you apply, including the steps of the inspection process. We also have experts here to talk briefly about ways to make your home more resilient against future disasters. FEMA is here in Michigan, focused on ensuring equitable access to our programs for everyone impacted by the event. We already have 50 disaster assistance team members out in the hardest hit areas, going door to door to help inform individuals on how to register and access additional services to move their recovery forward. Additionally, we are quickly establishing disaster recovery centers throughout the area where individuals can go and get in-person support with the assistance process. We've already opened our first DRC, which was today actually, at the Maplewood Community Center in Garden City. And tomorrow, good news, a recovery center at the Henry Ford Centennial Library in Dearborn will open to the public. And the hours are from 7 to 7, so it's early and late. And we're going to be there every day of the week until we get this job done. These are just the first of multiple centers we'll be opening in the days and weeks ahead. So there'll be more, maybe closer to where you live. We'll let you know through the press releases. Keep in mind, you do not have to visit a recovery center to register or receive federal assistance. These centers are available for those of you who need to submit documents or to FEMA and then get answers to questions about the process. You can do that in person. So they're there to help. I know Southeast Michiganders have been severely impacted by the late June floods. I want to commit to you that we are here with our whole community partners as long as it takes, ensuring federal recovery resources are accessible to all who need them. Members of my staff and one of our federal partners, the Small Business Administration, will now provide an overview of their programs. Without further ado, let's begin with Ms. Susan Jensen from our Individual Assistance Program. Ms. Susan?
Great, thanks so much, Scott. And thank you, Congresswoman Dingell, for inviting us to participate in this important town hall meeting. As FCO Burgess was saying, the first thing that people need to do is register. And if you have damage from the flooding, I want to give you a variety of ways that you can actually do that. We do have an 800 number, which is set up not only as a way to register, but also as a way to get information about your particular application. That number is 1-800-621-3362 or 621 FEMA. That is a way that many people call and choose or use to call and register. You'll be talking to someone live. They can answer your questions as you're registering, but you don't have to do it that way. We also have several digital options that you can use. Disasterassistance.gov, where you can set up an account and you can go in later and check to see what letters you've received, what your eligibility determinations are, and find out if and when you are receiving assistance. Also, we have a mobile app that you can download, and that is, again, a digital way to register. Now, FCO Burgess also talked about our disaster survivor assistance teams that are out in some of the hardest impacted communities. Those teams may go door to door. They may be located in one spot. People can certainly register with one of those teams. They have that capability. And then, of course, the final way is through one of the disaster recovery centers. And as was stated, you do not have to go to a DRC. I'm sorry for the acronym, Disaster Recovery Center or DRC. You can register there, but it's also really a place where you can bring documents, you can come and ask questions, you can speak to someone face to face. SBA will be there. Our mitigation people will be there to talk about how to protect your home from future damage. It's sort of a one-stop shop for state and local information, and is really a good way that FEMA and the state offer in order to get the kind of assistance that you want without having to call and talk to someone on the phone. So after you register, let me just briefly describe what happens. People will receive a letter that indicates that you have registered. When you register, you'll receive a 9-digit number. That number is your FEMA number for this entire disaster operation. That will be on all of your correspondence. That will be how the helpline finds your application. That's a number that you want to use when you go into a disaster recovery center. That number is yours for the duration. If you are denied, and you may get that letter as well, it is not necessarily because we're saying no, it's a hard no. That may be, we need more information from you. There are many reasons why people receive that initial letter as a denial. People have insurance, or they indicated when they registered that they have insurance. They may not have indicated that they have any damage, and you'd be surprised, especially when people self-register, how many times they answered the questions in a way that brings them to the point where they need to actually communicate again with FEMA and provide additional documentation. What we recommend doing if you receive a denial letter is to read the letter thoroughly. It does contain information about why you're denied and how you can appeal. But for things like insurance, all we need to see is that your insurance hasn't covered all of your losses. There's a declaration page on your insurance forms that you can send to FEMA, and we will look at that. We will look at the availability of our assistance programs and make a determination based on that. In our sequence of delivery, insurance comes before federal assistance. We are not allowed to duplicate benefits that are provided by another source. And so we are very cognizant of the fact that these things need to be documented before we can move forward. Many people also say that they have not heard from an inspector or haven't had an inspection. The reason for that is because maybe, again, level of damage hasn't been indicated. We don't inspect homes that have insurance, or we've been told that they have insurance by the applicant. Also, many people lost vehicles and perhaps didn't have home damage. If it's transportation assistance that you called in about, that also doesn't trigger an inspector coming. For those families who do get contacted by an inspector, the process is really quite simple. They will call and speak to the applicant or their co-applicant, one of the two people that may be listed as primaries on that registration. Those two primary names mean that we will not talk to anyone else other than the two people listed who are authorized to get information about that account. An inspector will verify the registration number that I mentioned earlier, and then they will set up an appointment with the occupant of the home, whether it be a rental property or an owner-occupied home. When they actually arrive at the appointed time, they will not go into your home. That is a COVID consideration that the federal government is doing to not only protect you, but our inspectors as well. They will talk to you outside the home about the damages that were incurred, and they will try to do a visual inspection using a cell phone that you may have, a tablet, etc. Their information then is uploaded to FEMA, to our system, and paired with your application. The inspectors do not have the ability to make eligibility determinations, nor can they address what assistance they think you will get. They don't have that knowledge. They do not make that determination. They are simply there to gather information from you and from the visual inspection that I described, and to pass that information forward to FEMA. Our assistance, as Congresswoman Dingell said, is for people who are uninsured and underinsured. We cannot make your home whole again. We want it to be safe, secure, and habitable, or able to function as a home. And so we will do minimal things to make your home that way. When I say minimal, we look at structural damage for one thing. If you have foundation damage, things that may make your home vulnerable to other types of damage. We look at your mechanicals. For FEMA, a habitable, functional home has a working furnace and a working hot water heater, has electric, the things that make the home livable. We also look at removing things in the home, in your basement, that may cause additional damage, that may cause mold to grow. We can pay for removal of carpeting, removal of drywall, etc. Unless it's an inhabited room, one that's essential, we will not pay to repair those things. We will pay to remove them. If, however, it is an essential living space, as we call it, let's say an occupied bedroom in the basement where there are no spaces upstairs to sleep, we can pay to repair that room in order to make it habitable again. There are additional FEMA programs that come after the SBA process. I will let SBA describe their program and also, the referrals that go back to FEMA. But there are also possibilities of eligibility for personal property, medical, dental, funeral costs, also repairs to cars, etc. Again, some of that is dependent on the Small Business Administration program, but we hope to provide, either through this presentation, through the DRCs, through the information that we publish, enough advice and good information that you can make smart decisions for your family about how to move forward through your recovery. That concludes my presentation, but I would like to introduce Lori Smith-Kuipers, who works with me in our mitigation division. Lori.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, I am with mitigation, the hazard mitigation branch. Good evening, and thanks so much for taking time to be here on your Friday evening. I am here today with my colleagues in the area of grants and flood insurance, and they will be happy to answer your questions in a few minutes. When you mitigate a risk, you are substantially reducing that risk from affecting you in the long term. Being covered by insurance is one way to enable you to recover faster and build back stronger. We also have other tips. So, and I realize that there isn't a lot of insurance coverage in this event, and a large amount of it was due, the damage is due to sewer backup and in basement flooding. But I do want to just give you a few stats. There have been 110 claims in both Washtenaw and Wayne counties. 88 remain open. We've paid 159,000, a little bit more than 159,000 and a half so far, and 50,000 in advance payments. And what that means is the insurance company, the NFIP, advances you money to get started on your repairs, but more money will be forthcoming. I also would like to point out that flood insurance or homeowners insurance can be tools to put in your toolbox for future damage. Now, homeowners insurance generally does not cover flood damage, but you can purchase what they call a rider, and that will pay for some pump failure, or you can purchase a different rider that covers sewer backup. So just keep that in mind if you want to talk to your insurance agent. Flood insurance will also cover these basements damages that you're seeing in this flood only if a flood can be directly related to the damage. So there are a few caveats there, but you just need to please, if you have insurance, make a claim, even if you think you won't. You'll be denied. It can't hurt, and be sure to ask your insurance agent for a letter of denial, because that will come into play later on when with disaster assistance. They may ask for that letter of denial to show that you did not get paid for the damages. Now, just a real quick cover. Don't wait. I hope everyone is cleaning up after, with their belongings, and that you're not letting mold take over, in addition to all the other terrible damages that you've suffered through. So be sure you do that, but document, save receipts, and just put them in a folder in case any questions come up, and you may be able to use them for your disaster assistance as well. Other things that you may want to consider after this flood in preparation, so you don't experience the same damage again, is are you able to install a backflow device in your home to prevent water from getting into your basement through your pipes? So consider that. It is a cost, but it costs a lot less to do that than to lose your memories of photos and other things you store in your basement, to lose your furnace and very expensive things to replace. So, and we will, I am going to be providing a sheet with some links to more information and publications that will answer hopefully some of your questions. And encourage you to look into elevating any mechanicals and your electric in your basement, and keeping everything high up so that in the future this will be less damaging, and really you'll be able to get back stronger and faster if there's another flood. And we all know there will be, because this has happened multiple times in all of our past. So with that being said, I would like to turn this over to the SBA, and they will continue with some very interesting information that you can use. Kathy?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kathy Cook, and I'm with the U.S. Small Business Administration's Office of Disaster Assistance. Thank you, Congresswoman Dingell, Federal Coordinating Officer, Mr. Burgess, and other colleagues of mine for allowing us to participate in this. We have a lot of information and not much time to dispel it. The first thing I want you to know is the fact that this is a federal disaster declaration means the help is available. That's not always available when it floods. So take advantage of it. What SBA offers is low interest disaster loans for businesses of all sizes, homeowners, renters, and nonprofit organizations. Yes, I said homeowners and renters. In times of disaster, the U.S. Small Business Administration is authorized to make low-interest disaster loans to homeowners, renters, businesses of all sizes, and nonprofit organizations. What do you need to do first? Register with FEMA. As Susan said, there's many ways to do it. You can do it in person at a disaster recovery center. You can call FEMA's toll-free number. You can use a mobile app. Once you have applied through FEMA's doors, many residents, meaning homeowners and renters, and all businesses are referred to the Small Business Administration. We provide low interest disaster loans to take care of your uncompensated, uninsured losses. Many people have insurance and it doesn't cover contents in the basement. SBA does. Many people don't have insurance that covered sewer backup, but SBA's loan can help you with your repairs and replacements. I don't want to borrow, you say. Well, let me talk you into it. First, this is an opportunity to recover. You do not have to pay anything to apply. It's free. The only cost is the time it takes to fill out an SBA application online. And we'll even help you with that. The next thing you need to know is even if you are approved for a loan, you don't have to take it. You can take all, some, or none of it. But if you don't take the loan and then later need it, you're leaving money on the table. So as your advocate, I want to encourage you to apply for all types of assistance that is available. How much can you borrow? If you are a business owner, you can borrow up to $2 million to repair and replace the real estate, leasehold improvements, inventory, furniture and fixtures. And if you're a small business or nonprofit, you can borrow money for economic injury. Economic injury is a need for working capital. That's to keep the business in business. In other words, you may have been flooded. Who wants to go to a restaurant when they've got moldy, mildewy tablecloths and chairs? They've got mud on the floor. So that business is losing sales and revenue. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan, EIDL, is meant to provide the business with money so that they can pay for lease payments, payroll, health insurance for their employees, inventory, real estate taxes, payroll taxes, anything that the business could have paid for had the disaster not occurred. And the good news is you don't even have to have physical damage. You might have business interruption despite the fact that you did not have flood damage, and that's available to you. So up to $2 million for businesses for repair and replacement and small businesses for economic injury. Homeowners can borrow up to $200,000 for their repair and replacement needs. This includes the house, if you have fencing, driveway, landscaping, debris removal. And homeowners and renters both can borrow up to $40,000 for their personal property. What do you mean personal property? What I mean is anything that you would take with you if you moved. So that's your furniture, your curtains, your drapes, your dishes, your towels, your clothes, your bed, all of those types of things, including your vehicle. Now you say, well, I get the whole 40,000. You'll get the amount of your uncompensated losses. What does that mean? That means that we estimate the amount of your damage. And if you received a grant from FEMA for the same damages, or you received an insurance settlement for the same damages as our loan, we can deduct that amount, and the difference between the total damage minus the grants equals your loan amount. And again, you don't have to take all of it. You can take some of it or part of it. You can borrow up to $25,000 and not have to put a lien on your house. I can't afford a loan. I've got more bills than Carter's got pills. Well, listen to this. Sometimes there's not enough money in your bank account, not enough insurance. There's nowhere for you to go for the repair and replacement costs that you have. SBA's loans are low interest loans. As a matter of fact, it can be as low as 1.625% for homeowners and renters, as low as 2.88% for businesses, and as low as 2% for nonprofits. I still don't think I can afford it. The good news is the first payment is going to be postponed 18 months from the date of the promissory note, not from the date of the flood, not from the date that you finished construction on your house or business. 18 months from the date that you signed the promissory note promising to pay the government back. That gives you plenty of time to repair, replace, and recover. In that time, you may have paid off a few other bills and makes it affordable. If you're a homeowner or renter and SBA is unable to approve you, we will refer you to FEMA for additional grant consideration. Why would you be declined? Well, SBA has to have reasonable assurance that you can repay the loan. These are federal disaster loans and must be repaid. So what we do is analyze your repayment ability. If we don't think that you can afford to pay the loan in addition to your existing debts, then we may turn you down for what we call lack of repayment ability. Or if you have unsatisfactory credit, we may turn you down for that. Or if you have delinquent child support, more than 60 days delinquent, we may turn you down for that. The letter will give you the reasons for the decline and give you up to 6 months to ask for reconsideration. Within that time, you may be able to rectify those situations and SBA will give you another review. What do I want you to remember from this? First of all, don't let business and our name fool you. A majority of our applicants are homeowners and renters. SBA provides low interest disaster loans to cover what FEMA grants and insurance doesn't. And that includes furniture and basements. It includes landscaping. It includes a lot of things that insurance and FEMA may not cover. The next thing, we're just a phone call away. 800-659-2955 is our customer service center. Can you call us and fill out the application over the phone? No, but we are at every single FEMA recovery center, side by side. We're hand in glove. And you can go to our desk and talk to a person face to face. Or if you're computer savvy, you can you can apply online and fill out the application yourself. We also have a business recovery center in Dearborn that you can look up the address and go there with your business information and we'll help you apply. We have, again, no cost to apply. You can borrow up to $25,000, no lien on your house. You don't have to take the loan if it's offered. You can even cancel it if you get approved, and we'll give you another 6 months to change your mind. So please, please, please first register with FEMA and then follow through. If you're referred to SBA, complete the loan application, even if you think you're not eligible. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Congressman Dingell. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kathy. So I want to thank everybody who's spoken here, and there's a lot of information. We're going to move to Q&A, but I want to make some points again. We're going to keep making so you understand. The first and most important thing you have to do is register. Those numbers are made available during this. They're on my website, they're on the city's website, they're on the county's website, they're on FEMA's website, they're on multiple media in this area, so that you know how to do that. But nothing happens until you register. After you register, you'll get the follow-up call from the FEMA inspector. Now, to remember, on Tuesday, there was some confusion when some people were concerned that they were being scammed. You should ask the person that's coming to show their ID, just so you can confirm that. We want to keep you safe. The chat line has, the chat right now has the helpline that you can call. I want to make a couple of other points. Right now, there is an Arabic translator on this call that if you need translation, they can do that in the chat. The city, so to those in Washtenaw, the DRC, I think I know where the site is. They haven't finalized paperwork. That will get announced in the next couple of days, so you know where it is in Washtenaw that you can go. Soft opening for the library will start at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, so you know that that is a site too. But one of the other important points that has been made that you need to hear, and this, by the way, is not something I say very often, is no is not an automatic no. We have to learn how to help you. You have to really know how to answer the questions. One of the things that the city is going to be doing, we have homes that are multi-generational. People may not have the paperwork that you need to show the ownership. The city will have people that will be embedded with the FEMA, the workers there, so that they can help you maybe get some of the documentation that you need for that. The city is also going to help work with FEMA to make sure that there are Arabic interpreters there so that you can get that kind of help. You need to ask why they said no, so that you can understand, was there more information you needed to provide? So that's very important in this process. Please, I know you get angry and frustrated when you get that first no, but take the time to understand it. And there are a lot of people that are going to work with you to help you understand it. And there may be more information that will help you get, so that you go back and ask for that further help. I want to say what Kathy just said is very important. Sometimes people get frustrated when they get asked to fill out the SBA application. If FEMA asks you to fill that out, fill it out. If you don't, that can be used as a reason to say no. So everything you're being asked to do, please try to make sure you're doing what FEMA asks you to do. I think that that is very important. And then the discussion that was had by the FEMA reps on two different issues, the flood insurance, the sewer backup insurance are very important points for studying down the road. I am digging in more than FEMA probably some days wishes, because I myself was denied insurance, which I'm not now, after my basement flooded 3 times, and you can get it. I didn't understand sewer backup insurance. I'm just blunt. You all know me. I didn't even understand sewer backup insurance until this particular flood. I do have it, I think, because I was such a pain in the bazooka with my insurance company when I was going through this. But we all need to know, we need to ask questions, make sure we're protecting what we need to be doing. And we want to work with you on that. And as FEMA said, there are things we need to do. We're working to try to make sure, and we are going to address it, that we have 100-year-old infrastructure. There are reasons that we flood. We need to be addressing those. But right now we want to mitigate. So the third time I flooded several years ago, the person that had replaced my carpeting twice said, I'm not replacing it with carpeting, I'm putting tile down. So when I had the water in the basement this week, my damage is far less than it's been with the carpeting. So we all need to take time to educate ourselves as consumers as to how we can help mitigate if it's going to happen in the future, which we want to address too. So with that, those are kind of my high level, just observations, having talked to so many of you. And I now want to turn this over to Kelly, who's going to MC the asking of questions. Kelly?
Thank you, Congresswoman. I actually am going to turn it over to our translator just so he can introduce himself for those that would need assistance.
Thank you very much. Yes, I will go ahead and introduce myself in Arabic and offer them that I'm available at their service. مرحبا للسيدات والسادة المستمعين. أنا اسمي راتب وأنا اليوم هنا موجود كمترجم بخدمتكم. إذا حضرتكم عندكم أي سؤال وبتريدوا تسألوا أي أحد من الموجودين أو من المتكلمين، أهلا وسهلا فيكم. تفضلوا اسألوها باللغة العربية وأنا بخدمتكم بترجمها. يا هلا فيكم.
Thank you so much. I'm going to start off with some of the clarifying questions that people have asked, and one is specifically for FEMA about the DRC in Dearborn, and wanted to clarify that it's at the Henry Ford Centennial Library, and then also what are the hours of the DRC? Is it 7 days a week?
This is Susan. Oh, do you want to answer, Scott? Go ahead.
Well, I can. What I have on my list here is the Henry Ford Centennial Library at 16301 Michigan Avenue, Dearborn, Michigan, 48123. That is the address, the official address, and it is open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., 12 hours. 7 days a week, sorry.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott. And then there's a couple of duplicate questions, so I'm going to put them together. And this one is for FEMA. We have a couple of folks that have already submitted their requests through FEMA and are sort of waiting to hear from someone, and they wanted to know what is the timeline of when they will hear back. One of them has a pending, but they're just curious as to when they will hear from someone from FEMA.
Right, thanks for the question. You should have received the initial letter. Pending may indicate that you're waiting to have an inspection. And we are increasing the number of inspectors in the field every day. At one point, we expect to be up to 400. These are contract inspectors that are working for one of the organizations or businesses that FEMA works with. I want to clarify, and Congresswoman Dingell did say this, look at their ID. All of our inspectors have an official FEMA badge. It will have a green stripe on it that will indicate that they are an inspector. And they will, again, contact you. But yes, we have a lot of inspections to do, increasing number of inspectors. So I can't give you a time frame, but we are moving through those very quickly now that we have more staff on the ground.
Thank you, Susan. So we are going to call on people and to ask your question, and we will unmute you. And the first person that I'm going to start with is Mary Beth Hannon. Mary Beth?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hi, I actually think it was answered when FEMA was on, but we had submitted the claim online and it had said ineligible, but we do have insurance. So does that mean then we can't have any additional help from FEMA?
Thanks for the question, Mary Beth. No, it does not mean that you are ineligible to receive anything from FEMA. What I recommend that you do, if you have settled with your insurance company, to submit that paperwork to FEMA, send in the declaration page from your policy, and also indicate the amount of money that you received. At that point, FEMA will send an inspector, and we will look at what may need to be covered or that wasn't met by your insurance coverage. For example, I know a lot of people may have sewer backup insurance and may have a limit of $5,000. $5,000 is not going to replace a furnace. It's not going to replace a water heater. And so you want to make sure that you appeal that decision, FEMA's decision, submit your insurance documentation, and FEMA will then determine your eligibility for additional allowances, additional assistance on top of what your insurance is. So insurance doesn't disqualify someone. All we say with our denial letter is, you need to go to your insurance first, and you need to show us what you've received. And then the process can move forward after that. So don't be discouraged by a denial letter. And again, Congresswoman Dingell did absolutely say this. And I appreciate it. A denial letter does not mean you will never receive federal assistance. It means we need more information in many cases. But I encourage people to read the letters. If they're indiscernible, which sometimes I can find some of the documentation or letters from the federal government, go to the Disaster Recovery Center, call the 800 number, the helpline, and they can help interpret it for you and work through some of those issues and questions that you have. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan, and thank you, Mary Beth. Tad, I see that there's a question that you said you wanted to answer live that was not a FEMA question. Would you like to answer that?
Go right ahead.
All righty. It is, what is the west end? Why does the west end have 13 floodgates and the east got 2? Is this why the west end did not get hit as hard as the east end?
Okay, that is not a question that I'm an expert in responding to from Homeland Security and Emergency Management. That's probably a better question because Homeland Security does not handle the floodgates. We handle the response to when things go awry. I will jot down that particular question and see if I can't get an answer, but unfortunately, that's beyond my expertise.
Alrighty, the next person, if we could unmute, is Wafa.
Hi.
Oh, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm actually not Wafa. I'm a friend of her. Her English isn't good, so she asked me to attend on her behalf. I just have questions because I will help her with the FEMA applications. We checked her home insurance and it doesn't have any flood insurance. Does she need to apply and get a denial letter, or can she just say that she doesn't have it?
Right, that's a very good question. If you do not have applicable insurance for the cause of damage, which in this case is considered a flood, you can say, no, I don't have insurance. And that will immediately start the FEMA process.
Although she has home insurance, but it doesn't have flood.
Right. When we ask that question, what we mean is, do you have insurance for the cause of damage? Homeowners insurance does not cover flood. If one adds a rider, that may cover it. But in your friend's situation, she doesn't have coverage. When she applies, have her say no, she has no insurance.
Okay, I have one more question for you. By the time she woke up, there was just about 1 inch or 2 inches of water remaining, because she has a drain in her basement. So she only took few pictures, because she wasn't aware she can get any help and she knew her insurance. But there are some pictures that shows the damage, but how will this affect her application?
It doesn't need to affect her application at all. When the inspector comes, again, they will ask her to take a phone or a tablet, show them the damage, because again, they're not going inside people's homes, but our inspectors are well-trained and they look for things besides water that remains. They look for water lines, they look for other evidence of damage, and they may direct her to specific places that they want to see. We can verify damage without there still being water in the basement.
Okay,
and
that's good.
And that's to Lori Smith Kuiper's issue, which is if you still have water, sewage, other impacts from the flood in your home, please clean them out. It just causes additional damage. It's very unhealthy to be living in a home that has so many contaminants in it. FEMA and SBA loss verifiers can tell from what's remaining what happened. Pictures are always good, of course, but they don't tell the whole story always. Our inspectors are trained and they can find these things.
Okay, will a translator come with the inspector? Is this something that you guys can offer?
Right now, we don't have the number of translators that we need to have with each inspector, but what we are working on is a way to provide translation services over the phone. We are working to set that up right now. Also, too, we use Google Translator. Our inspectors have access to that. Or we can also, if there is another person in the home, an English-speaking person, a bilingual person who's over 16 years of age, they can also use that person to do the translations. So there are a
Okay.
variety of ways, but when they set up the appointment, if they know that there's a translator needed, they will make allowances to have that service available.
Okay, thank you.
Since the caster was asking in Arabic, if we have a few minutes, I'll just translate those 3 questions real quick with their answers.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome. سأل 3 أسئلة باللغة العربية وأنا بخدمتكم حترجمها. أولا بموضوع الطلبية اللي حضرتكم عم تقدموها. في ناس عندهم تأمين انشورنس ومكتوب فيها هذه الرسالة أو مكتوب في هذه الطلبية سؤال هل عندكم تأمين؟ ولكن إذا بتركزوا على السؤال باللغة الإنجليزية ما كاتبين بالذات إذا عندكم تأمين فقط، كاتبين إذا عندكم تأمين لغاية الشيء اللي سبب الضرر، وغاية الشيء اللي سبب الضرر هو الطوفان flood. وللأسف أكثر الناس ما عندهم تأمين لهذا الطوفان. بقى الجواب عليه إنه يكون دقيق، وممكن الواحد يجاوب السؤال ويقول إنه لا ما عندكم تأمين للطوفان حتى لو عندكم تأمين منزلي للبيت. السؤال الثاني كان بموضوع إنه السيدة ما صورت صور كثيرة، هل هذا حيأثر على الطلبية؟ الجواب كان لا. الجواب إنه لا ما حيأثر، لسبب إنه لما بيجي المفتش من عند فيما ومن عند SBA هن عندهم خبرة وبيعرفوا هن إنه ينظروا للعلامات الدلائل اللي بتدل إنه بالفعل كان في طوفان موجود، مثلا خط على الحيط أو أي شيء هيك. وملاحظة إنه ما يخلي عنده أحد أي شيء موجود ببيته من العفن أو من أي شيء منزوع ويخليه موجود ببيته لحتى يجي المفتش، لأنه هذا ممكن يسبب ضرر صحي للشخص. ما بننصح الجميع انه نظفوا بيتكم، ولكن ولا يهمكم اللي حيجي المفتش اللي حيجي على بيتكم حيعرف وعندهم خبره علشان يشوفوا الدلائل. واخر سؤال كان بموضوع المترجم، هل حيكون مع المفتش مترجم؟ الجواب للاسف لا، ما حيكون مترجم معهم، ولكن في 3 طرق ممكن يستعملوا علشان يقدروا يساعدوا الناس اللي ما بيعرفوا اللغه الانجليزيه. اولهم الترجمه على التليفون، ثانيهم الترجمه باستعمال جوجل ترانسليت وين حيترجمهم، وثالثا ممكن اي شخص عمره فوق ال 16 سنه بيعرف اللغتين يستعملهم المفتش علشان يقدر يساعدهم بالترجمه والتفاهم ما بين.
Oh, can you translate them into what they are in English so the FEMA can respond?
When you said translate them in English, I was just translating the questions and the answers, the 3 questions and the 3 answers that were asked.
Oh, perfect. Never mind then.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have another question that was similar to the timeline of when FEMA would hear back, but how long does it take for FEMA to respond back to the citizens so that they can get an idea of how long the wait is for each of their individual claims?
Again, and I'm not 100% sure I understand the question. When someone registers, they will hear very quickly from FEMA with a letter following up on their registration. How quickly they hear from an inspector depends on how many inspections each person has. We have thousands of inspections right now, but as I said, when we bring more inspectors on, the turnaround time will be significantly less than it is now. If somebody makes an appeal to FEMA, that could take a couple weeks to hear something back. It's very possible. This is a high registration operation, and consequently, it takes sometimes, depending on how complicated an issue is, it may take a little more time to resolve. But rest assured that FEMA will get to all the inspections, all the questions, all of the appeals within a reasonable amount of time. I can't give a time frame because unfortunately here in the field, and I'm in Michigan right now, we don't control those things. That's done by our processing center. But they are very cognizant of the fact that people need assistance, and they are working as quickly as they can to make sure that people have that assistance available to them. I would recommend, speaking of timeframes, that if people provide their bank account numbers to FEMA and they ask for electronic funds transfer, that definitely speeds up assistance. Otherwise, it may take 7 to 10 days after eligibility is determined to receive that Treasury check. with an electronic funds transfer, eligibility is determined, and within 24 to 36 to 48 hours, that money might be in someone's bank account. So if you have a bank account, it's definitely an easy way to receive the assistance for which you're eligible.
Thank you, Susan. And then we have another couple of duplicate questions where folks are saying that they have already been denied without actually speaking to anyone. And we're just curious as to what the next step is for them.
Again, hopefully you have received a letter by now of why you were denied. It could be because you indicated that you had insurance. If you self-registered, there might have been a question that you didn't answer. For example, the level of damage. If we show that you have no damage, you will be denied. You may not have been able to prove ownership, occupancy, or maybe you failed our ID verification. Those are all things that are easily remedied. I recommend, if the letter doesn't make any sense, to call the helpline, which again is the 621-3362 number, or to go into one of the disaster recovery centers. Again, the answers are in the letter, but I understand that sometimes they're very difficult. Sometimes it's very challenging to understand what we actually need from you. So there are other sources of help available, and I encourage you to access those.
Thank you, Susan. And next we have questions from Denise Cosby. Denise? Denise, are you there? I think you have to unmute yourself, Denise.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Congresswoman Dingell, for doing this. I live in Farmington Hills, and on July 7th, we had massive storms come through, and we have pretty extensive damage in our basement. I have a small business, so I have damage to business contents as well as home contents, as well as some structural damage. But it has not been declared a federal disaster, as far as I know anyway. So because it hasn't been declared a federal disaster, I can't register with FEMA. So if I can't register with FEMA, my question is, am I ineligible also for the SBA loans?
I think so. Not everybody will understand that. So I'm going to come in here for a minute, then I'm going to let Kathy go. Denise, we're glad you joined us. The 12th district was Wayne and Washtenaw, which has been declared an emergency. The federal emergency that the president declared was only for Wayne and Washtenaw counties. I don't know if anybody from the state wants to come, and I know that it was left open that other counties, if they got enough damage, could be eligible. So could place that in context. That is why Farmington's in Oakland County, and that was not included in the disaster declaration. But now I'm going to let Kathy or the state answer those questions. Kathy, you're on mute.
That would make it hard for you to hear me. Thank you. As far as SBA is concerned, the counties that touch Wayne and I forgot how to pronounce the other county.
Washtenaw.
Okay, are eligible for economic injury disaster loans. So at a minimum, you'd be eligible for that. Generally, what we would recommend is to report your damage to your emergency management agency, and there occasionally are possibilities for other counties and to be added on to a declaration. But right now, you would be eligible for economic injury. That's the working capital. Money to pay the expenses that the business could have paid had the disaster not occurred. And
Thank
I'll
you.
defer to the state.
Sarah, any comments?
Let me get turned off here. The event that was categorized in this particular disaster took place June 25th and 26th, and that was the end of the incident period. And Oakland and the other counties, we did do an evaluation on those particular dates, and there was not sufficient damage to that area, to those areas they did not ask for extra assistance and so forth. Moving ahead to July 7th, as far as I'm aware, that would be a separate incident. That would be a separate weather event compared to the June 25th and 26th event. The other caveat to try to consider with that is to determine which storm caused the flooding damage in a particular residence because of the close proximity of times, the 2 weeks or so in that period. But as of now, that would be two separate events. I believe that is the policy. I would defer, if it's any different, to FCO Scott Burgess if there would be an exception to that rule, but I don't believe that there would be, as in continuing over a long period of time, because it's the same type of weather event. But those are two separate events.
I'm gonna take the pressure off Scott. I was home last Friday and was on Southfield as the storm started and saw the immediate flooding. So I called the White House and I called National FEMA and a lot of other people at the governor's office as well. And the national or the presidential designation was for those 2 dates only. So that the flooding that occurred last weekend was a separate incident and FEMA cannot cover that. So I'm gonna make a point and actually make another point, which is when this first happened, we were very clear with everybody that they needed to take pictures inside and out and send it to their city so that the city could document the damage. Then cities, and it was more than Dearborn Heights, it was many cities in Wayne and many in Washtenaw, and Washtenaw later got added to some of this as that damage was documented. It's very important that people send the damage to the city when they've had damage so the city can document it. But it's also what you sent to the city is separate from FEMA. So even if you sent the notification to the city, you must still register with FEMA. So I talked to the governor's office, Sarah, you probably didn't even know this, and said, are we collecting and trying to find out if the damage from last weekend is significant enough? I know they are collecting it. I will be very candid because you all know I'm a candid person. It is a good news, bad news. We did not have as much damage last week as was the first time. And my talking to most people, I think this is not going to go into the category of emergency. Again, I don't know that for a fact, which is why it is important that everybody be documenting and sending their damages to the city so they can send it to the county and they can send it to the state. And I know this sounds like a lot of bureaucracy. It probably is. But I'm also going to tell you that there have been, in the last few years, that requests were submitted to FEMA and they were denied because it did not reach the level, which is why this documentation is so important. But I always just share the facts. And look, a man took me in his basement last Friday and showed me the drywall he had just replaced and how it was wet again. And so I know there was more damage. And I'm gonna make one other point, seems like a point to make this now. I'm not, like, I am the worst person that you should ever talk to about knowing maintenance on her own home. So you need to make sure you're talking to somebody that knows what they're doing. So not this time, but when I had flooding before, I didn't realize that if the walls got wet, you could have damage, and I got black mold in the house before I had all the drywall replaced because I didn't know that. And FEMA had talked about looking at installing backflow preventers, but residents should check with the plumber because some of the older houses have issues if they are installed. So you should make sure you're talking to somebody that knows what they're doing. And I will also tell you that after my third flood, not this time, but a couple of years ago, my sump pump had stopped working and I didn't know that. So you need to make sure your sump pumps are working. And I'm the worst person that never knows what she's doing. So all of us need to ask the experts. We've really got to get the facts. So I want to say I'm sorry that last weekend may not, but I don't believe in misleading anybody. And it's very important you have the facts. So thank you. Kelly, I'll turn it back to you.